Consider pausing your routines to cover gray hair, even if that sounds unusual coming from a healthcare provider. I realize that for many years, you have likely visited the salon every month or stood before your home mirror preparing a box of dye, carefully adjusting gloves and timers with the simple hope of achieving a natural-looking shade. However, there is a central point to consider. The changes occurring in your hair follicles are not a sign of physical failure, nor did you trigger them through some error. They are driven entirely by biochemical shifts. Once you grasp the science behind this internal progression, you can make use of structured tools designed to target it. I'm Dr. William Lee, and throughout my 3 decades of clinical focus on how nutritional chemistry interacts with human systems, I have watched how natural elements can support biology. Today, we are going to look at the profile of one specific vitamin that is rarely highlighted for hair color support, yet is shown in published clinical studies to interact directly with the process of color loss in your hair. By watching through to the end of our discussion, you will understand the specific dietary form of this nutrient that proves most effective. Often, people utilize forms that do not match what has been studied in laboratory tests, and key data points directly to this difference. Recognizing this factor is frequently what separates individuals who establish stable, visible outcomes from those who set aside their efforts within a few months and return to chemical color covers. Let's begin by evaluating the biological foundation of what gray hair really is. The standard viewpoint often characterizes the silvering of hair as an inevitable companion of aging, claiming that our genetic inheritance completely dictates the timeline, and that once pigment is lost, the change remains irreversible. These conventional assumptions miss the underlying science. Your strands receive their shade from specialized pigment-producing units within the scalp called melanocytes. These cell structures live inside each individual follicle to generate a biological pigment called melanin. In our younger years, these melanocytes operate productively and smoothly, ensuring your hair retains deep, stable color. However, as our systems mature, our internal biochemistry shifts. Around the age of 35, a change unfolds inside individual hair follicles. A specific compound called hydrogen peroxide quietly begins to build up. This is the same chemical compound commonly kept in household first aid boxes, produced naturally in minute quantities within our cellular networks. Over the years, our production of a crucial protective enzyme called catalase begins to slide. As your natural catalase levels decrease, this hydrogen peroxide slowly accumulates. When these hydrogen peroxide reserves build up within your scalp follicles, they perform a localized bleaching process. This oxidizing chemical slowly degrades and shuts down the pigment-generating cells from within. An evaluation published in the FASEB journal, a widely respected biological publication, directly observed this molecular process. A scientific team at the University of Bradford examined hair structures across different age brackets and identified that as subjects matured, natural catalase output dipped substantially as regional hydrogen peroxide climbed. These findings led researchers to establish that the local collection of hydrogen peroxide acts as a primary trigger for the decline of your color-producing melanocytes. In other words, graying isn't simply a chronological concern or an unavoidable hereditary trait. Rather, it behaves like an internal biochemical imbalance. If we address this metabolic shift systematically, we can potentially support the biological restoration of color. This leads us directly to the core evidence that prompted me to put together this guide. Investigations show there is one specific nutrient that plays a highly supportive role in our internal catalyst processes, serving as a metabolic building block that our bodies can utilize to help manage catalyst pathways and reinforce our pigment cells. This B family component is called PABA, or para-aminobenzoic acid. Many are completely unfamiliar with PABA since it is rarely highlighted in daily wellness blogs or consumer reports. Yet, within modern molecular nutrition, it is defined as a crucial water-soluble element, frequently grouped with B-complex vitamins as B10, and researchers have analyzed its relationship with scalp pigmentation for over 6 decades. Consider the early scientific data on this. Back in 1941, a clinical researcher named Dr. Benjamin Sieve published a notable early investigation analyzing the influence of this nutrient on hair pigment. During the study, he supplied oral PABA to a cohort experiencing premature changes in their hair. The resulting feedback was highly promising. A major segment of the trial subjects showed progressive repigmentation, indicating that areas of gray hair gradually transitioned back toward their original base shades. These developments were noted as distinct, clinically observable adjustments in structural tone across multiple participants. Following Sieve's early focus, subsequent medical assessments have expanded our modern view of these nutritional pathways. Later reviews revealed that aligning PABA intake alongside critical B group compounds, particularly folic acid and pantothenic acid, yielded supportive results for managing hair tone. Observers documented a gradual darkening effect in structural hair samples, even among subjects who had been noticeably gray for extended periods of time. To understand these developments, we should walk through the exact physical mechanisms at play, as this detail helps distinguish clinical research from modern folk remedies. In essence, PABA assists through three direct biological mechanisms in your scalp follicles. The initial phase involves the crucial catalase defense we touched on. Our bodies utilize PABA as an organic building block to generate functional catalase internally. Think of your physical cells as a production facility tasked with synthesizing the enzymes that clear out hydrogen peroxide. Over the years, this internal workshop can run low on needed metabolic resources. Restocking your natural levels of PABA serves as a replenishment for these assemblies. With proper materials, your cells can support normal catalase synthesis, which actively reduces regional hydrogen peroxide, allowing your compromised melanocyte cells an opportunity to normalize. The next mechanism centers directly around our natural pigment synthesis. Lab studies demonstrate that PABA supports tyrosinase, which is the fundamental biochemical driver your melanocytes rely on to create melanin. Without active tyrosinase, the body cannot generate the melanin necessary for rich hair color. Consequently, PABA is supportive not only in safeguarding hair roots from high oxidation damage, but in providing the structural signals needed to foster proper coloring. The final path is frequently ignored despite carrying massive scientific weight, revolving around the dynamic gut-skin-hair relationship. Extensive recent data confirms that our intestinal microbiome, made up of trillions of digestive microbes, is capable of synthesizing critical B vitamins, which the body distributes to sustain healthy cells. This includes localized pigment support for our scalp follicles. Balanced microflora strains actively generate natural levels of PABA internally. Yet, ongoing clinical evaluations confirm that as our metabolic systems mature, the bacterial families responsible for synthesizing these exact nutrients begin to dwindle. A clinical study featured in the publication Nature Communications highlighted that the structural diversity and makeup of our microflora inside individuals past 60 show marked changes compared to younger groups. Critically, the microorganisms that generate key B vitamins, including the production pathways for PABA, were identified as those most heavily reduced by these normal aging patterns. This is not wellness speculation, but findings reported inside distinguished science journals. This nutrient supports hair vitality from the inside out, focusing on three physical variables: managing local hydrogen peroxide accumulation, maintaining optimal enzyme paths, and stabilizing microbiome-associated factors. If you find these explanations supportive for your health, take a quick moment to join our subscriber list. Each week, I discuss evidence-backed insights regarding how our diets and choices can defend biological pathways, sharing the types of detailed data that doesn't usually make it into short clinical visits. Click subscribe so you can stay fully up to date with each release. Let's focus next on a detail that may prove surprising and represents a key practical strategy in our discussion. There is a specific food-derived source of this nutrient that exhibits excellent biological availability, acting in a very balanced way without requiring isolated pharmaceutical pills. This simple ingredient is often already stored inside many home pantries, unsulfured blackstrap molasses. This substance is the dark, rich molasses left behind once raw sugarcane has been boiled multiple times to draw out refining components. When the refined sweet crystallizations are set aside, we are left with a highly mineral-dense food byproduct in that. This pure blackstrap molasses naturally provides PABA as part of its cellular matrix. Critically, it delivers a natural network of cofactors such as vital copper, iron, magnesium, and key B vitamins, which work together to facilitate balanced transport and usage. This dynamic is essential because B vitamins never operate independently inside the body. To succeed inside our complex metabolic pathways, individual nutrients rely heavily on cooperative mineral teams. For instance, the natural copper in blackstrap molasses acts as a key companion for tyrosinase high, helping trigger proper melanin creation. Iron content helps promote balanced oxygen delivery directly to hair roots. B group variables support the work of PABA within your pigment cells. Swallowing an isolated PABA tablet ignores this supportive entourage. Choosing to incorporate it as a whole food ensures you receive these elements in an integrated biological format. Using blackstrap molasses effectively for long-term scalp and color health requires following a careful method. Here is the suggested protocol to use at home. Measure out 1 single tablespoon of high-quality, unsulfured blackstrap molasses each day. Utilizing unsulfured variations is vital because sulfur chemical treatments can limit our biological intake of trace copper. As established, keeping stable copper remains non-negotiable for normal melanin synthesis. Blend this tablespoon cleanly into a mug of warm, not hot, purified water. Aim for a gentle, easy-to-drink temperature, since boiling hot temperatures can degrade delicate B group nutrients. Stir until the mixture dissolves fully to a consistent, rich tone. Enjoy this first thing early in the day prior to sitting down for coffee, tea, or your breakfast routine. Consuming this on an empty stomach maximizes digestive absorption because essential minerals and B elements undergo transport pathways far more efficiently without needing to negotiate other digestive tasks. This helps clear the path for the optimal absorption of supportive iron, copper, and structural B vitamins, providing your systems with clear, undistracted uptake. Let me directly discuss a central practical question. How long should you wait to observe noticeable changes in hair pigmentation? The biological paths that dictate pigmentation require time. Rather than using topical artificial color overlays, this protocol involves restoring the cellular terrain so pigment units can work steadily on their own, requiring appropriate consistency. Reviewing the clinical history, in the 1941 research trial, notable repigmentation shifts first appeared within an 8 to 12-week window of stable PABA use. More recent evidence shows that aligning PABA directly alongside natural minerals, which matches the balance provided by whole molasses, can provide useful support, creating a stable framework to assess your month-by-month results. During the initial month, you can generally look forward to an improvement in the baseline look and thickness of your hair, which displays less structural breakage and improved luster. This shift corresponds with elevated nutrient levels and blood flow returning to follicles, acting as initial positive indications that things are responding. By the second month of consistent adherence, many notice a slowdown in the development rate of new gray strands. Although earlier gray hair remains visible, the velocity at which fresh silvers show up seems to scale downward, which is an important step towards success. As you move through the third and fourth months, structural changes typically become more visible. You might begin to identify that new hair growth at your scalp lines displays a deeper, natural shade, with certain individual fibers transitioning to gray toward the ends. These visual shifts are actual biological proof of pigment cells re-engaging, signaling that the cellular systems in the hair follicles are producing melanin again and managing accumulated hydrogen peroxide. Regular dedication to the routine is paramount. Given that catalase decline and peroxide buildup have quietly proceeded in your scalp follicles over decades, the biochemical environment cannot be remodeled overnight. Meaningful balance changes unfold slowly over seasons, which requires continuous effort on your part. To complement these inner nutrients, I suggest integrating a secondary habit to encourage outer circulation, one that is seldom covered in public hair guides: active scalp care utilizing rosemary essential oil. Although this appears distinct from coloring choices, the anatomical backing for scalp support is highly promising. Data printed in 2015 in the medical publication Skin Appendage Disorders details that careful physical scalp massages improve overall circulatory support toward the hair roots while encouraging health in target dermal cells. Pairing these manual circles with natural rosemary oils provides a second layer of defense, as rosemary naturally provides carnosic acid, a plant phenol noted in studies for active antioxidant support. In parallel research, clinical testing observed that utilizing organic rosemary extract supported scalp wellness at levels similar to standard topical therapies over 6 months of stable use. Though encouraging hair pigment centers runs on a different track than follicle count, the underlying advantages are connected. Applying this oil stimulates active blood supply directly to the scalp structures, promoting consistent delivery of B family minerals and trace cofactors toward your pigment systems, supporting long-term performance. To apply this at home, twice weekly, measure 5 drops of organic rosemary essential oil blended with 1 tablespoon of a gentle carrier oil, such as light jojoba or fractionated coconut oil. Position your fingertips on the scalp and trace steady, gentle circles across your head for 5 minutes. Pacing this process is crucial because maintaining the massage for at least 3 minutes is required to elevate localized circulatory delivery. Apply this in the evening, leaving it in place overnight, and cleanse your hair during your morning routine. Quotes. Combining early morning Blackstrap molasses with targeted rosemary scalp work twice weekly is a highly supportive way to target graying at the biological root rather than covering it. Let's address another query that frequently arises. Why not use direct catalase capsules? Various products claim that swallowing catalase proteins can directly stop graying. However, a key issue of human physiology makes this difficult. Because catalase functions physically as a protein, swallowing it simply exposes the molecule to digestive juices and stomach acids that disassemble the structure into base amino acids, preventing the functional enzyme from reaching scalp structures intact. This is exactly why a precursor molecule like PABA is the logical strategy. You are providing your body with the key building materials to synthesize its own catalase within its own cells, letting your systems balance themselves. An additional piece of information warrants close attention, particularly if you routinely use chemical color cover-ups. Evidence indicates that continuous oxidation coloring can actually hinder scalp pigmentation. Standard formulations, especially deep-level permanent shades, commonly employ PPD or p-phenylenediamine. These elements utilize active hydrogen peroxide to seal the new shade into the hair strand, adding external hydrogen peroxide to your head with every touch-up. This is the very chemical associated with melanocyte degradation, meaning you are adding more of the molecule your system is already struggling to clear. A report featured in the International Journal of Trichology notes that long-term use of oxidative products correlates with heightened stress indicators around your hair roots. Clinical observers identified clear markers of oxidation damage in subjects utilizing permanent dyes, which can trap many inside a continuous loop. Applying developer treatments to cover grays can add hydrogen peroxide, damaging pigment centers and contributing to additional color loss down the line. Addressing this feedback loop involves a two-step change. First, seek to reduce the direct application of intense peroxides to your scalp, migrating away from oxidative colorings. I know making this shift represents a real lifestyle and aesthetic choice given the high value we place on coverage. But if your goal is long-term color wellness rather than brief overlays, it is highly beneficial to limit direct exposure to the very molecule tied to color loss. You can make this transition progressively. Explore using chemical-free semi-permanent shades or pure plant henna formulas that do not require intense hydrogen peroxide developers. These are gentler options that avoid interfering with the nutritional balance you are supporting. The second part is to keep a regular morning routine using unsulfured Blackstrap molasses in warm water on an empty stomach, supported by your semi-weekly rosemary oil head massage. We have now addressed the entire spectrum of this protocol: the chemical parameters, the biological rationale, the natural mineral combinations, the structural circulation support, and the details of chemical avoidance. As we conclude our discussion, remember that gray hair is in no way a health disease, nor is it a trend to feel anxious about. For many individuals, silver locks represent maturity and experience, which is a beautiful viewpoint to share. However, for many who watch these resources, the appearance of grays can sometimes feel like an unwanted development that makes them feel less aligned with their inner vitality. Moving past temporary cosmetic dyes does not mean having to yield control. As science notes, we can choose to nurture the actual pathways inside to promote healthy natural color from within. I would love to learn about your path. Drop a line in the comments section with your current age and let us know when your earliest silver strands showed up. Was it during your 30s or later, Saham, and how did you feel about it? If you choose to adopt this combination of blackstrap molasses and rosemary essential oil, plan to come back down the road to share your experiences, as your observations can assist peers facing similar choices. Take a moment to pass this video along to anyone in your family or community who would appreciate having this nutritional strategy in hand. Stay mindful of your wellness and support your physical health smoothly.